Let me a window. Okay. Can you guys see me? You guys see the presentation? You guys see the presentation or no? Okay.
Ouch, ouch, ouch.
Oh my god. Okay. Chapter 9, Part 2. How can I successfully navigate leadership transitions? Okay. Now, we'll start with number 5 straight away. What leadership principles enable a failed leader to lead again successfully? It mainly focuses on that if you have failed already, what do you need to consider before attempting to return to a leadership role in your company or an organization or whatever your life position is in general, between you and your friends, between you and your day-to-day life. Basically, the second chance. Now, what you need to focus on are you need to first ask or like do like these 4 steps. First, evaluate what went wrong. That where did it go wrong? Was it a mistake in strategy? Did you lack the skills necessary for good leadership? Do your problems stem from poor self-leadership? Where exactly is the issue so that you can
Sorry?
solve it? Second point, emotional
废话，不是？
strength. Are you able to bounce back from the previous attempt? Because people need to learn how to fail forward. You need to harness the failure to the energy needed to give you another shot, sort of way. That's a quote from the book. Third part is evolution. Can you make the adjustments needed for future success? You need to make the changes in yourself to set up for future success. You need to figure it out, make the necessary adjustments. If you're not willing or able to do it, maybe you shouldn't step back into that position. If you're unable to solve the issue, then at a point in time, the same issue will cause the same kind of failure. It's just repetition. The fourth point is sort of derived from the text that you are sharing, which is that you need to do a lot of work with others. Is it that you need to earn respect and rebuild trust with people? The quote from the book is leadership is getting people to work for you when they're not obligated. And with that, as it's quoted from the book, you need to earn trust and rebuild the trust with people. If I have tried to be in a leadership position with you, and then I failed, that's a trust that was broken. So I need to figure out how to rebuild the trust and how to rebuild that relationship. Now, why do some leaders fail to have a successor? Now, this is caused by the following reasons, which is like the organization doesn't accept the new leader. Sometimes the people in an organization are so entrenched in old thinking that they don't allow.
Can I interrupt for a while?
Yes.
Before you go to question 6?
Yes.
Let's go back to question 5. Okay. One thing very important for us to begin to realize, if you look at this, evaluation, emotional strength, evolution. Let me stress this. I don't think there is ever a leader who has never failed. Okay? I don't think there's ever a human leader that has never failed. The question is not whether you have failed. The question is whether you have the emotional strength and the flexibility or the determination to change, the openness to change. That's why the key factor is you have to develop the ability to withstand failure and to withstand to develop the flexibility to evolve. This is very, very important. In other words, what I'm trying to say to you is, if you have this mentality or the mindset that, oh, I don't want to fail, when you fail, you may not have the how to say, you may not have the internal strength and intrinsic quality to get up. Very often, failed leader, right, are not condemned, are more often condemned by self than condemned by others. Okay, so I just want to point that out first. Very important. So it's okay. I would say it's okay to fail, but be prepared that we all will have failure, because this is part of our weakness of human nature. Okay. Any question here? So be prepared to develop the emotional strength and the how to say, the strength to change. Okay, the strength to bear with failure and the strength to change. Okay, Mohammed, back to you.
Okay. Number 6. Why do some leaders fail to have a successor? Point 1, the organization doesn't accept the new leader, which is in regards to that people are sort of used to the culture that was there with the previous one. That change itself is hard for them to accept. And with it, the new person isn't allowed to even attempt to actually lead his own, unless he just follows the orders from the same person, from the previous leader, and the previous leader is already seen in the organization as he is. So you're just sort of a middle point, but you're not truly a leader in that position. The new leader doesn't like the organization, that sometimes there isn't a good fit, and it's not discovered until the new leader takes the reins. That I don't know. That one seems a bit more challenging to ignore if you already don't like the organization. Why would you volunteer to take a leadership position? But I don't know. That is something I wonder about. Point 3, the new leader doesn't fit the corporate culture. That every organization has its own culture. If the vision and values of the leader don't match up with those of the organization, there will be a clash. It's going to be quite confusing for the people when what they believe in or what they have chose to invest in with the organization is not matched by what the people in charge are asking for them to do and asking them to fulfill. The new leader fails to bring about successful changes. That sometimes the person chosen to succeed a leader isn't as good as hoped. We imagine or we think someone's going to be a good leader. However, unless you have tried that aspect and unless you have tried that role before, you won't know how good of a leader you are. Because as we kind of think that it's sort of like a skill. You need to practice it to perfect it, or you need to practice it to make it better. And unless you do that, you won't know, or we can imagine something, but in reality, it's on another level. The next point, the old guard sabotages the efforts of the new leader, which is an organization contains leaders who believe they were passed over in favor of another leader. There is a danger that they They do what they can to make the new leader fail. It mostly comes down to like jealousy or envy, or it can even be greed, that they wanted that kind of responsibility and that kind of thumbs up from the people around. The next point, the old leader sabotages the efforts of the new leader. Is that sometimes the person stepping down has a hard time seeing someone else succeed in that position, which is sort of understandable. Is that it's a hard feat to fulfill. It's hard for someone to not have the ego or not have the pride or not have the need to get that kind of approval and that kind of grace. The grace is the thing that we all should have, and that humbleness or that willingness to leave it as it was. And that's a hard quality for us. I think that we, at least I'll talk about myself, is that of course like pride or not willing to let yourself down sort of way. Or sometimes it's even that like you in your mind you already think so little of yourself, so that if someone else thinks worse than that, you become a bit more defensive, which is kind of understandable. And also I empathize and like I reason with it, especially if it's as the CEOs, let's say, grow older in age, they sort of grasp at that position because they have committed their life to it. If I've sacrificed all aspects of my life to achieve a great feat in that position, if I give that position up, then what do I have to fall on? If I have sacrificed time with my family, if I sacrifice my health, if I sacrifice my friends for that position, then when I leave that position, what do I fall like? My family's relationship and my friends' relationship have been ruined. My health might have deteriorated, so I'm forced to deal with just bad news, basically. So it's not as easy as we think it is, or as we hope it should be. So like, I really do empathize. And that a quote from the book is that a leader's lasting value is measured by succession. Is that is very much a part of a valuable measurement and a metric to how good is what they have left behind. After, of course, their time or their tenure or their even life, after their death, what did they leave? That's a good measurement for a leadership, and I feel also for a human being, what did you leave after you die is also a good measurement for someone, just for all of us to think about as well. Sir, you want to say something before I move on? Okay, I will take that as a no. Okay. What are the most important things a leader transitioning out of a position can do to ensure the success of the person taking over the role? The book mentions in detail, actually, that's why the baton picture I have was placed there, is that he takes the relay as an example for the rules. The one passing the baton must keep running full steam until the baton is passed. The one receiving the baton must start running before he receives it. So at the first point, we can already see that the old leader must keep running full steam until it's taken. The one receiving it does not start jogging after he's received it. He's already in it. He's already doing it. He's already practicing sort of that role. Both runners must remain in the same lane. They're both running in the same direction with similar speeds. The baton must be passed in a timely fashion. The timing of transition is also crucial. if they execute poorly, it's possible to gain a step in that result instead of a losing step. Is that? I'm sorry, that part shouldn't have had the sign. Is that at the time of release and at the time of the receiver catching it, if it's handled in a good way or a bad way, can either get them a step in or a losing step out. Once the baton is exchanged, the one passing the baton does not run alongside the next runner. Does not run alongside the next runner coaching him, but stops and catches his breath and walks across the infield to cheer for the successor at the finish line. That's the job. You don't run, catch your breath, you stand to the side, and you cheer him on. You help him if he needs to. You give him some energy. You give him some that like emotional burst, but that's it. You do not step into the field anymore. You don't give any more, let's say, unwanted or unnecessary interferences. It's his baton now until he passes it to someone else. Now, what are the steps to handle it? You first plan ahead, then you pick your successor, then you start preparing him, take care of any unfinished business, say goodbye, and then make yourself available to your successor. Now, this was demonstrated in the example that I was referencing before. That was straight away from the book. No. How do you handle leaving and breaking the news with? Sir, you want to say something before I move on? Okay, I will take that as a no. Okay. How do you handle leaving and breaking the news to a great team of great people who came to a company because you asked them to? Which is basically how to cut off. There is a quote, I like situation for the book, which says that there's a trick to the graceful exit. It begins with the vision to recognize when a job, a life stage, when a relationship is over, and to let it go. So that means that you're leaving what's over without denying its validity or its importance in our lives. However, it involves a sense of future, a belief that every exit line is an entry, that we're moving on rather than out. And if you have point 8, if you have that down, you won't have the issue from a couple of points ago, which is that that you sabotage the successor. Which is that if I'm comfortable with the end, then I won't have issues letting it go. I won't have issues with. Actually, I won't have issues with the whole chapter. I won't have issues. The majority of the points mentioned is that I don't want to leave so early. I don't know who to give it to. Is that because we're so uncomfortable with the end already that we are unwilling to think about it and plan for it. And that kind of idea, we can see it in many examples in our lives. And I'm guessing all of us know like a toxic relationship that we have with a friend. Until now, like even with family members, with people that you know, like someone who whenever you meet, your energy level just goes down. You feel sad, you feel depressed, you feel just and those kind of relationships, we have them, but we keep on to them because there is some time that was invested in them already, especially from school, let's say, like from high school or college or whatnot. Is that I have spent like 5 years being friends with you, and you have spent that same effort with me. But when people change, when it's time to just let it be or reduce that level, it's very hard for us to let it go. And that mentality of accepting the end itself, how should I say, it's a good and a bad thing. But the thing is that we want to live so much in the moment that actually helps us perform better. But thinking of the end helps helps us perform for longer, sort of way. Not just the individual, but the team. That's how I think. Is that without the second aspect, without thinking for longer, then the company's pace is your pace. However, if you're always thinking about the future, if you're always thinking in terms of 10 years, then you won't live this year. It's very hard to plan for a very long-term future without thinking of the present. If you're not in today, then you won't live actually today. But like those kind of opposing concepts, I should say, or like opposing time frames, are very hard to plan for or like adjust or know how to measure. And yeah, that is a struggle, I guess. And the longer you live on Earth, the shorter the duration seems to be. Like if I'm 20 years old, 1 year over 20 is, let's say, this amount of time. If I'm 1 over 50, then that 1 year is less significant. You know what I mean? So like your sense of time in it of itself is extended. And you can always say it is that some people, whenever they reach a certain age of like 70 or 80, they start to, that's it. They're either in content, they are pleased to wake up for another day, or they just want to get it over with. They have a sense of I'm living for today and that's it. Of course, that's a stereotype. I'm generalizing in general. I'm not mentioning every 90-year-old person. But the younger we are, we feel that we should plan for a future because we're usually told so. And that's not a bad thing, that we're always planning for our retirement when we're 20 years old. But those people are usually driven to depression in this in this time. If you're so hyper focused on your retirement at like age 50, you're not really living at the earlier years of your life. So this challenge, and we're kind of all going through it at the time, is let's say the organization is you and the product is your life. If you're always living in the future, then you're anxious if you're always living in the future. And if you're depressed, then you're always living in the past. Of course, this is a simplification of those like mental issues, but like that's sort of that's how you can see yourself and how good you are in that dynamic. Do you actually know how to do this? You can grasp at that when you see, am I always sad about what I did, the mistake that I did last week? Or am I always worried about, oh my God, what will happen tomorrow, what will happen next week? Or are you neither? Are you just, oh, I'm alive today, then let's just be today? So I think it's very easy for us to criticize, but it's also very easy for us to forget who we are or how we match up in that aspect of itself. Because I feel that's a thing that we usually do. I don't know. At least I shouldn't say we. I should maybe say I think that's what we do. By the way, if anyone has any entry they want to share, anything they want to intervene in, you're free to do so, of course. 1 second. Let me open the thing on my phone. If you guys have anything to add to the chat, or if you guys want to have any, open your on mic, please do so. Okay. I'm gonna guess that no one has any additions. So I'm moving to part 9, okay? Okay. Part 9 is that what should be the legacy of a successful leader? And this is a quote from Maya Angelou, which I found quite interesting. This is not from the book, a quote from Maya Angelou. But I felt that it's relevant. Is that your legacy is every life you've touched. It actually references a quote earlier that what's the value of a leader is the lasting effect they have on other people. And we can, okay, I have a question for people, for everyone. You guys remember a teacher from your earlier years, whether it's from middle school, high school, from college? You guys remember someone? You guys remember a teacher? Maybe someone who taught you for a semester, a year. Like for myself, I still remember a middle school teacher of mine. He had that, to this day, I still have a principle that he showed during that year when he taught me. He never spoke to me directly about it, or he never. I wasn't even a good student at the time, and he taught a very bad subject. He really hated it. He taught me Arabic language, a very tough subject. It's a very hard one. However, there was a certain principle that he held during his class that I very much respected, and I still hold it to this day. Just the essence of respecting other people in general, and how they, and what they do, and how they do it. Is that if I'm someone who literally his whole planning is for that 1 hour that he meets me, his whole day, like even his holidays are dictated for this 1 hour that he sees me. So all he's doing is planning for this hour. So if I ruin this hour, I'm literally taking away his life. And not only that, I'm also wasting time for the people who want to engage in the subject and they want to learn. It was always, I'm not gonna forcibly teach you anything. Doesn't work. If I shout and I hit you, you will literally forget it as soon as I leave. You wanna learn, I will give you my life. If you don't want to learn, then let others learn. Please have that respect. At least they wanna take value in the money they paid in the school. That kind of mindset, that kind of mentality of I cannot force you to do anything. By law, you have to come to school to learn. If you don't want to learn my language, then if you don't want to learn like my subject, it's okay, but don't ruin it for me. And and most importantly, don't ruin it for other people. He demanded that respect, and we all respected him for that. And his class was the quietest class. Most of the class didn't actually learn a thing in Arabic, in the grammar and the language itself. It's a very hard subject, and unless you're passionate about it, then it's very hard for you to get into it. And because we were learning as like a first language, it was very advanced. So like, unless you were into it, you weren't gonna learn it. However, we were still quiet during this class. Compare that to like a physics class or like a chemistry class. Even the people at the first bench couldn't hear the lecturer speak. The one in the first bench, like that's how loud people were. So you can imagine. Like I still remember him. I still remember his name, Mr. Shaban. I still remember his name to this day. I don't remember anyone else. I remember the people I hate, I despise. But the people who either I despise them or I love them. Those are the people that I have in my life. And at least I pray for him to this day. But the others, I just forget. I'm indifferent towards them. Mr. Shaban is the earliest one that I remember. He is a very. I still remember. Yeah, I still pray to him. Play for him to this day. And like the list started from there, like until today. That's my experience. But like to be honest, my life was actually touched by Mr. Shaban. I don't know if you guys have. I'm guessing you guys, of course, have at least one teacher that taught you something. At least I hope. Okay, I'm not gonna wait anymore for the intervenes. I'm guessing you guys, unless of course you guys want to share something, just open your mic and go on. I'm gonna quote the book in the next book, is that legacies that matter are connected with people. That when the student is ready, the teacher appears. That's a quote, to be honest. I took some time and I couldn't really, and I don't know if I have grasped the full extent of it. Is that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Actually, I don't mind if, sir, if you want to intervene and explain that particular quote from the book. Which is mostly related towards the part that legacies that matter, which I feel is because it's a summary, or it's because like it's a short idiom, it might be oversimplified, but it's mainly focused towards like, if you have touched people, that means that you have a legacy that matters. Which when we think about whatever thing that we dream of, or whatever thing that we hope to achieve, or whatever thing that's generally advisable, like let's say most cultures want you to be a doctor. Like we have that pressure back home. You have to be a doctor or like an engineer. And I think I'm gonna guess you guys have it here as well. But okay, but why do people want you to be a doctor? Like it's not a dumbfounded idea, because it's not unreasonable for people to respect you for being a doctor. Being a doctor, you literally save lives on the day. Every day people walk around that you have helped. That is a legacy. That's a job that actually doctors, nurses, anyone who's in like the medical part of like medical part of like the medical sector, if they're kind-hearted and if they're actually not doing it for the money, like they're not deceiving, they're not producing like, let's say, faulty medicine or whatnot, but like they're actually doing their job, they touch lives every day and they have a great legacy. And that of course gives like that in itself demands respect. So like I feel that it's our task to find out how we can touch lives and whatever interests that we have. I'm interested in something, how can I touch lives? And I think that we undermine our own selves when we think about how can we influence other people, or how can we better their lives. We minimize our power, we minimize our influence that we have over people. We just say, oh no, I'm just on my own, I don't do anything. But the impressions that you leave with people do matter and do leave, if not on the moment, but at least a lasting one. And if they're smart enough, or if they are in the mindset of learning, then they will pick it up on the way. And actually, we can even see that in like with movie stars. Like the Black Panther actor recently passed away. He was the lead character and like an all-black cast, and people gave it way more props and way more attention than to be honest, I believe that it should. It's just a movie, just a comic book movie, and I didn't really like the movie. However, so many kids loved it, like African American kids in America, and well, the stories that came about him and the pictures that were drawn and the murals. And I never understood the concept, or like not the concept, but the extent of the influence. He just acted in a movie. People gave him money to do a job. That's what he did. However, he was put in a position that enabled him to influence so many kids. For so many kids, for so many black kids, to them, that was the first time they were represented. It's the first time they see themselves outside of their own consciousness, outside of their own bodies. They saw something and they felt that this is me. They saw something outside of themselves. Like for kids, they want to be Iron Man, they want to be Superman, they want to be Batman. If you're an orphan, you can see more yourself in Batman. If you are a bit of an engineer, you see some more interested in technology or whatnot. You always are attracted, or you always lean to the one that fits your own life story. Like, this is my origin story. This is me. Like in 20 years, this I can be that. But black kids never had that aspiration. Or it's not that they never had it, but they always have to disconnect another step for themselves. But for them, a black guy, someone who's similar in color. Of course, there is like he's a king of like an imaginary country, or like not like a hidden country, but that's the suspension of belief sort of that you get when you're in a movie. But you can see that influence. All he did is imagine. That's the actor. He got paid to be an actor in a role that's imaginary. It's not a real life story. But for so many kids, that was their representation. It was them. On the screen, they felt they could relate with him more than others. He's not the best one. He's not the. He was the closest to them because they felt closer to him. And his influence and his effect was felt when he passed away. A lot of people that were crying for him, and that was an absent influence that I never really felt. Maybe because I'm not black as well, so like, I didn't get that accent. But if an actor can have an effect or like an influence on viewers, I feel that you can have an effect and influence on your friends. It's not like an imaginary, it's not a larger step. Yeah. That's to be honest, that's enough for me to hold the message. That's it. I feel that I went a long circle. I hope that you guys got the point. If anyone wants to add anything, I hear a mic. One moment. Let me mute.
Two things I want to just mention about legacy. First point I want to mention about legacy basically is everybody leaves a legacy. The question is not whether you leave a legacy. The question is what kind of legacy you leave behind. That's the first. And it is very important for us to ask yourself that. Don't think about, I need to work hard to leave a legacy. Whatever life, why do I say that? Legacy comes about where the influence you have on other people lingers on in your actions. That's legacy. Legacy is where the influence you already have, the impact you've already made, lingers on, continues in your absence after you leave. So that's why I have to point out to you, you have to ask yourself, not ask yourself, do I want to leave a legacy? That's a wrong question to ask. The question you have to ask is what kind of legacy, because everybody leaves a legacy. Okay? The minimum legacy that you leave behind is always the impact that it has on the people close to you. Everybody has someone close to you. Everybody has family members. Right? Yeah. So when you leave, right, what kind of influence impact their life, continue to impact their life? That's why we all need to ask the right question and then put in the effort. Second point I want to point out. Legacy, leaving behind legacy doesn't happen when you are old. Leaving behind legacy happens every stage of your life. Which means, what I'm trying to say is, every single one of you now, even though you are in your youth, you are young, you are still leaving behind legacy. Why do I mean by that? Very simple. Muhammad, for instance, you will be leaving college. And when you leave college and you go back to Egypt, you are leaving behind the people that you have impacted while you are in college. So, in other words, for all of us, we have left behind legacy. We have left behind legacy when we left school. We have left behind legacy when we have left college life. We will leave behind legacy when we leave a job to go to another job. So the question basically is, what legacy have you left behind? Every time you leave something to go to another thing, did you leave behind a positive legacy so that people continue with the good that you have built, so that the positive impact you have built in wherever you are continues after you leave? That's why legacy is not a future thing. And you must develop this habit right now while you are young. Then, so that when you are old, you have developed the skill to leave behind a legacy that has greater positive potential. And the ultimate legacy that you leave behind at the end of your life grew from all the legacy that you left throughout your life. When you leave something to go to another thing, when you leave something to go to another thing, what do you leave behind that impact life? So as you work to develop the habit of making sure that wherever you are, you build something that lasts, that build something that continues the impact when you leave, then you will eventually build the capability to leave a legacy, the ultimate legacy, when you leave your life on earth. Make sense? So don't think that this legacy thing only applies, when I'm old, when I'm dead. Legacy starts now. It has already started, by the way, for all of us. It's already started. So if I were to ask you now this question, this will help you to evaluate whether you need to change your mindset about leaving behind legacy. Simple question. When you left high school, was there something positive you leave behind that continues to improve or make a change in school? When you leave college, did you leave behind something positive that continues to bear positive influence upon constructive change? So when you leave your job to go to another job, did you leave behind, again, positive changes that has helped the company, that has helped the staff, that has developed, built the staff culture into something better, which continues its positive influence. If you cannot say yes, then very simple. You have not developed a constructive mindset, a lifestyle that leave behind a positive legacy. Then you better rethink now your mindset of how you live your life daily. If you look back and you cannot, because why? Very simple. If you continue to live this lifestyle that you have been living, and yet you cannot see in the past the things you have left, having anything positive that you leave behind, then if you continue to live this lifestyle, then in the future, when you move on, leaving one thing to another, why should there be any different about the legacy you leave behind? None, because you're still living the same lifestyle. Don't expect a positive legacy when in the past, the lifestyle that you have lived didn't leave behind a positive legacy, and you're still living the same lifestyle. That means in the future, when you leave to move on, you are still not going to live the legacy. Unless now the lifestyle you are living is different. If your lifestyle you are living now is different, then the legacy you leave behind will be different. Hopefully, it is more positive. Okay? So you have to ask yourself this question. Really important. Because if you don't, then if you continue to move on, do you think you can expect to leave behind much of a legacy? Any question? Can I understand what I'm trying to explain? Okay, good. Yeah. So it's very important. And this has got to do with proactive, which you all know already. You have gone through the 7 habits of highly effective people. This got to do with proactive. Right? And it also got to do with, very often I've stressed before, if you keep doing the things you were doing, then don't expect anything to be different. That's why you look back right now to your past to ask yourself this: do I see anything positive left behind when I left from all the situation that I left? If there's none, please, you have to rethink the lifestyle you are living. If you look back and you say, hey, yes, they are still applying some of the changes that I have made. Oh, good. If they are still applying the changes you have made, then they are continuing the contribution that you have made. That's legacy. If they have continued the changes, the positive changes, and the contribution that you have made during your time there, then you're left behind a legacy. Because you're left behind something that some positive change. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. That's why in whatever you do now, always do your best right now. Better still, you must do your best until there is something, some practical improvement already, positive changes already happen. Which is why very often, sometimes when I look at people going for a job, why they want to go to find a job and then why they want to change job. It's what the job do for them, rather than thinking what you can do for the job. In order for you to leave a legacy, your mentality should be not what the company can do for you, not what the job can do for you, but what you can do for the job, what you can do for the company. And only with this mentality will you be able to leave behind a legacy. Can you see the mindset difference? The difference in the way you think? Okay. That's all I got to share.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And with this, we share a story. It's mostly a poem from the book. An old man walking a lonesome road came at the evening cold and grey to a chasm vast and wide and steep, with waters running cold and deep. The old man crossed in the twilight dim. The rolling stream had no fears for him, but he turned when safe on the other side and built a bridge to span the tide. Old man, said a fellow traveler near, you are wasting your strength with building here. Your journey will end with the passing day. We never again will pass this way. You've crossed the chasm deep and wide. Why would you build this bridge at eventide? The builder lifted his old grey beard. Good friend, in the path I have come, he said, there followeth after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way. The chasm that was not to me, to that fair bearded youth may a pitfall be. He too must cross in the twilight dim. Good friend, I am building this bridge for him. I feel that echoes the sentiment that Sir was just talking about. And like the mostly is the value that you're leaving for the others behind you. Yeah, I feel that's a good way to to wrap up the chapter. Like, mostly think about what you're leaving and what you're doing for other people. Yeah, think about what you're doing for other people. Okay, and with that, we end point 9 and the chapter. It's a very
Okay. I want to add something for the whole chapter.
Yes.
Okay. Initially, when I look at the chapter, I thought it is not very relevant for you, for all of you. Actually, I have to say that I have changed my mind on that. It can still be relevant for all of you. Why? For the reason is everybody leaves something. And when we leave something, we prepare so that the organization that you leave behind will have a successor to continue the work of improvement that you've already established in that company. Most of us don't think that, but I think there's a need to do that. So that your contribution, your effort that you have put in, right, is how to say, is continue with a maximum or to the maximum potential, because the one who's going to take over your position can take it to another level. That's why succession is not about at the end of your career. Succession is about every time you leave a venture and move on. So the venture that you left behind, does it have a successor? Simply meaning, the job now, whatever job you are having now, you will leave the job one day, either through promotion or through resignation. Somebody else is going to take over the job. did you make it make the transition smooth for the new person to take over your job? Did you leave the job better than better than the time when you accepted the job, so that your successor, when they take the job, now have a better situation when you take it? About that, I also remember my time. I also don't think about that. I think it's wrong, Okay, I think the right mindset we should all have is whatever job and responsibility we have accepted, right, at any one time, then later on, knowing that we're going to leave it in a couple of years' time, it doesn't matter, 2 years, 1 year, 5 years. Did we leave behind something better than when we first took hold of it? Did our successor find the job in a better situation than when you first took it? This should be the mindset we should have in order to establish the habit of leaving behind legacy. So that at the end, when you really have developed a mission, and you're leaving behind the mission, you have to hand over the mission because you it's your end of your life, right? You already have developed the habit of making sure that you leave behind something that is easily handed over. That you have developed the skill of the transition of handing over, and that begins now. So, which means that this chapter is applicable to all of you in whatever your situation may be. Okay? So, those of you who are beginning to take up certain role and responsibility, now you can think beyond just fulfilling the role or responsibility of what is required from you, but you can add on the role of responsibility of making sure that you will be handing over that role one day in the future, and you will want to hand over well, or hand over the role in a better state than before, and handing it over well. So this chapter is definitely applicable. Okay, that's it from me.
Okay. Would anyone like to share anything? Anyone like to say anything? Zishan, are you there? Maybe you can do your sharing if you wanna share anything. You wanna update us? Oh, okay. 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 Then never mind. I feel it's a good way to wrap up. Thank you, guys. I feel our attending rate is quite small, so never mind. Before we close, I would very much appreciate and like to hear any feedback you guys have. When I say anything, you can private message me. Would really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't want to take more of your time. Have a good rest, and hopefully you can conquer the rest of the week. Good luck. Bye bye and good night, all. Huh? Bye bye. Good night. Good night, good night.